What's up, everybody? Joseph Hadaway here. Hey, starting this video off this week with a shout out to investment. I think it's Cage, might be Kage. I'm going to call him Cage, but if I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. Over on Twitter, Cage is by far one of my favorite Twitter accounts. He's got some fire takes, some great memes, and a really cute dog. Moving on though, Investment Cage is the inspiration for today's video. If you don't know who he is, he's another one of those finfluencers on Twitter, same as me, same as 100,000 other of us on there. But what puts Cage apart from everybody else is he openly talks about his second job as a way for him to invest more money. And that really got me thinking. I mean, there's 101, maybe even 100 million videos out there about side hustles and side hustling your way to wealth and entrepreneurship, but when does it make more sense just to get a good old-fashioned part-time job? And that's what I really love about Cage. It's a surprisingly even unique take that is kind of contrarian to hustle culture, but not at the same time, and I want to talk about that today, so let's get into it. And of course, let me start out here. No, not everyone needs to get a second job. No, not everyone needs to get a side hustle. There are hundreds, thousands of examples of people out there who have become very wealthy, financially free, even retired early, and never made a single penny outside of their 9 to 5. But if you may want to speed up your freedom process, if your 9 to 5 maybe doesn't pay enough, you need that little extra money to invest, or, like we talked about in the student loan video, if you need a little extra cash just to help you pay the bills every month or achieve a higher quality of life, then that outside income stream may be exactly what you need or exactly what you're looking for. But do you want a part-time job or do you want to work from home side hustle? Let's go over the pros and cons of both. Second job up first. All right. So let's say you're looking to get a part-time job on the weekends, maybe a little extra after your 9 to 5. Let's talk about that. First up, on the pro side, you got a guaranteed income stream. Whatever you're making per hour at your part-time job, you know you're going to get. Like example, if you make $10 an hour and you work 10 hours a week, you're getting $100. That's pretty guaranteed. You know where that money's coming from. And then number two, having a part-time job is way less hassle than entrepreneurship or a side hustle. I mean, for example, I was a cashier in college at a local grocery store. I didn't not once have to think about marketing, how to drive customers, how to lay out the store, pay salaries, balance the books, nothing. All I had to do was scan the customers' groceries, take their money, and smile as they left. And let me tell you, as someone who has tried and failed and succeeded at several different side hustles, it is a lot easier to smile and say thank you when they leave. And then number three, on the pro side, we have regular hours. What do I mean by that? So as a side hustler, I've done sales calls at 2 a.m, midnight, working with people overseas or in Australia. But when I was the cashier at the grocery store, I knew I got off at 10 p.m. Also, as a part-time job, I knew exactly how many hours I was working a week. But as a side hustler or even as an entrepreneur, I can put in 50, 60 hours and never intend to. You never know what's going to pop up. That just doesn't happen as much at a second part-time job. All right, but second jobs aren't always the answer. And there's some downsides to it too. Let's talk about the easy one. Number one, you're on a fixed income. Like I said, if you make 10 an hour, you work 10 hours, you're getting $100. If you're only working 10 hours, you know for a fact you're getting $100. There's no way you're getting more than that. Whereas entrepreneurship or, side hustle, which I'm kind of lumping into one and the same here, and I'll explain why when we get to side hustles, your income's kind of uncapped. I mean, an entrepreneur can work 10 hours and make $1,000. It all comes down to what you're looking for. If you're looking for that guaranteed income, that's where the second job comes in. Number two, sometimes the second job can be a little hard to find, especially if you're already working a 9 to 5. A lot of places have pretty set hours, and if you're busy 8 to 5, 9 to 5 plus commute every single day, your options of where to find a second job, especially if you're not already established somewhere, get a little limited pretty quickly. That doesn't mean it's impossible, but it does, like I said, it means it's limited and there's only so much out there for you just due to time constraints, if nothing else. And then number three, the job itself. And maybe I'm speaking a little personally here, but I've worked fast food, I've worked food service, I've worked hospitality, I've worked retail, and I think anyone who's worked any of those industries can tell you that dealing with the public sucks. That's just a fact of it. And again, maybe I'm speaking a little personal here because I know I work 8 to 5 every day, and even though I'm blessed enough to work from home, if I were to look for a second job, I'd end up in retail, I'd end up in fast food or somewhere like that is open later, and I know for a fact that I'd have to deal with the public in those jobs, and if you don't want to, as someone who spent the better part of the last 7 to 8 years doing it, I wouldn't blame you at all. All right, but let's say a second job isn't for you. Maybe you don't have the time to dedicate 10, 15, 5, however many hours a week outside the house at another job. Plus, you got to get ready and you got to commute, and it's a mess. I get it. So let's talk about the world of digital side hustles, which of course also have their ups and also have their downs. So let's get into it. Let's see here. First up, with a digital side hustle, you can work wherever and whenever you want. There is absolutely no set hours like there would be at a normal job. Businesses close and you really can't work after they close. But if you're working for yourself, you work when you want. I can honestly say I've done entire freelance projects late at night, early in the morning. Whenever it works for me, whenever I felt like working, I worked on it. And whenever I didn't, and I still got paid. That wouldn't fly at my 9 to 5. And I'm pretty sure it wouldn't at yours either. Number 2, unlimited options. What do I mean by that? All right, so unlimited options, you can do whatever you want. The world of the internet has opened up hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of money-making opportunities out there. Are you crafty? Start an Etsy store. Maybe you're not, but still want to do a store? Start drop shipping. You want to make a YouTube channel? Make a YouTube channel. You want to start a blog? Start a blog. You want to flip websites? Flip websites. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's profitable, is entirely up to you. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks or whatever industry you're in. You have full creative freedom and full creative control. And then, of course, number 3 on this list, as with any entrepreneurship venture, you do have theoretically unlimited income potential. Like I said, with a second job, if you work for an hourly rate, you work 10 hours at $10 an hour, you're guaranteed $100. But with entrepreneurship, I mean, you could work 10 hours and make $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 in that same amount of time. Dropshipping stores don't stop. Etsy stores don't stop. Freelancing you can take until you drop. It doesn't really matter. Your income can grow exponentially as long as you keep putting in the work. And that said, your income, while it isn't limited, also isn't guaranteed. I can say from personal experience here that I have side hustle projects I've put 100, 200 plus hours into and lost money. Not made a cent. And that's just the risk you take as an entrepreneur or a side hustler. It's not guaranteed to work out. And that kind of brings me to my second point. You could end up putting in more hours overall for less money, for less payoff, for nothing even. As an entrepreneur or a side hustler, sometimes what's supposed to be a 5-hour week turns into a 60-hour week. And that's just how it happens. You kind of have to take what the world throws at you. And if you are the only one responsible for the business, you've kind of got to be that guy for every little problem that hits, whether that be a customer, an internal thing, your servicer, a tax problem. It all falls on your shoulders, which can be great, but it can also mean a lot of long nights and a lot of late hours for something that you're not even sure is going to work out yet. And that brings me into number 3 on this list. Side hustles can be extremely difficult to start, and you bear the full amount of the failure. I don't mean emotionally on that. Prime example here, a personal side hustle. A few years ago, I tried to start a clothing dropshipping store. Between hosting and web design and designs for the clothing and the down payment of the supplier, I was probably about $1,500, $2,000 into this project. And here we are, I think about 7 years later. You know how many things we've sold? Sold 3 shirts year 1. I profited about $8 on that. And that was it. And as a solo entrepreneur, a solo side hustler in this case, that full downside came out of my pocket. And when our supplier and our hoster came looking for more money, well, again, that had to come out of my pocket because I put my name on it and I bared the full downside of it. Side hustles can be extremely difficult to start. You never know what's going to stick. There are some proven methods that work, but it's always a bit of a shot in the dark. But that said, if you believe in yourself and you believe in the concept that you're doing, maybe worth putting some time and a little bit of money into. But side hustling is kind of like investing. You should never put more into it than you're willing to lose. And that means hours, your emotional availability, money into it, everything. If you want to risk it all for something, can be worth it, can make you a lot of money, but you got to be ready for that downside too. Now, what if I told you there was a best of both worlds? Like, what if I told you could get the guaranteed income that's offered to you by a second job, but you can also get the be your own bossness of a side hustle? Close your eyes and tell me what you think that would look like. Now, if you're imagining driving around in your car, delivering people at McDonald's, then you're on the right track. Yeah, we're going to talk about gig work now. And a lot of what I'm about to say here goes for any platform, whether you're Doordashing, you're Uber Eatsing, you're Fivering, you're Amazon Flexing, you're Grubhubbing, even in a lot of ways the typing and side hustles that you'll hear about online. There are a lot of different things you can do, and a lot of these platforms have their pros and cons. Let's go and get into that. First up on the pro list, with gig work, you can work whenever you want, for the most part. A lot of these sites are open basically 24/7. Like I said, I've done Fiverr orders at 2 a.m. I've Doordashed at 10 p.m., at noon, at 3 p.m. Whenever it just seems to work. You are not set by a schedule, and as a contractor can really work whenever you feel like it, and then don't work whenever you don't feel like it. And the best part about this is, number 2 on this list, a lot of these gig works have an extremely easy startup. Take, for example, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, Amazon Flex. Assuming there's space in your area for you to work that's not too overcrowded, which I know a lot of markets are right now, do yourself a favor thinking about this. Just get on the waiting list. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost anything. But if you can pass a background check, then bam, you're golden. You are good to go. And I've talked before on the channel about how a Fiverr gig takes 10, 15 minutes and bam, you're ready to go to start making money. It really doesn't take much to get into these gig work spheres. And then number 3 on this list, when you're dealing with the gig work, your work is all but guaranteed. These platforms have done the hard work of finding your audience or their customers for you. Like, if I were to start Doordashing right now, I don't have a lot to worry about. I've just got to sit around and wait for the orders to come to me. Same with Fiverr. They boast millions of customers and millions of orders per year. All I've really got to do is put my gig up there and wait for it to come to me. It's absolutely that simple. And because they've already found their customer base, I don't have to worry about doing any of that myself. I can just sit back and wait for the money to roll in. But with that said, just like everything else that we talked about in the video today, gig work does have its downsides. Number 1, you are using someone else's platform, and they control that platform and can do whatever they want. If DoorDash wants to cut their guaranteed money per delivery, they can do that, and now you're making less money. If Fiverr wants to fully kick you off their platform, they can do that, and then bam, your income stream's gone. If Amazon wants to double the amount of flex work for the same amount of pay, they can do that. And that's the unfortunate reality, is they control it, they monetize it, and they either choose to let you on or they don't. And because it's their platform, maybe you can argue, but nobody's required to listen. That's just how it is, and that's the risk you run doing gig work. And that kind of leads me into number 2 on the con list, and that's that you have limited income potential when doing gig work. And by that I mean, because the platform finds the customers themselves, you are forever limited by how many customers the platform has. I could go DoorDash for 24 hours straight right now, and no matter what, my income is tied to how many customers DoorDash can find. My Fiverr gigs, their success is tied solely to how many customers Fiverr can bring onto their platform. And that's just kind of, again, the way it is. If the platform's not bringing in customers, or the platform dries up, or there's, a drought in the platform, then I'm just not making money. Because if you're doing gig work, it doesn't pay an hourly wage. I could go live on Doordash and sit in a parking lot for 24 hours, get no orders, and then I've just wasted a day of my life making no money. And now we kind of get into number 3 on this, and that's potential startup costs and potential tax burdens. Now, potential startup costs does not apply to every gig work platform. As I've said 1,000 times on this channel, Fiverr gigs are free, Upwork is free, freelancer.com is free, and there are several other at-home side hustles like that that are completely free. But at least in my opinion, or what I've seen, a lot of your more profitable and popular gig work right now are DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon Flex, Grubhub, that list that I keep making over and over again, that require a car. Now, if you're here in the US, Sammy, give me a graph of car prices over the last couple years here in the States. Thanks. Car prices are skyrocketing. A car alone can cost several $1,000s to buy. And if you're like most people, you're going to finance it, and then you got to deal with an interest rate, monthly payments, and it's a whole mess. And now that you have a car, you've got to get insurance on it, tires, oil, brake pads, even more. All of that have to be maintained. And I mean, a breakdown alone can cost several $1,000s, and while your car's broken, you can't deliver for DoorDash, so you're out an income stream. And that's just the risk you run. And onto the tax point, all of these jobs, you are labeled as a contractor. And of course, I'm going to speak real quick about tax law here in the US. I don't know if it works this way internationally. I'd be willing to bet it probably does, but don't take my word for it. When you're a 1099 employee, you have to file your own taxes, or rather pay your own taxes, as compared to a W-2 where your employer automatically takes it out of your paycheck. And on top of that, that also means the platform doesn't owe you a thing. If your car breaks down, DoorDash doesn't pay for it. If you got a flat tire, Uber doesn't pay for it. You've got to handle that yourself. And then on top of that, that 1099 income is usually taxed at a slightly higher rate than what your W-2 income is taxed at, because with a W-2 job, your employer bears part of the burden of your taxes. And I can make a whole nother video about tax law in the US, but yeah, if you want to see it, let me know down in the comments. But again, that's just the risk you run doing gig work. But the good news here is, no matter which way you go, whether you want a second job, whether you want to start an at-home side hustle or a digital side hustle, or you want to go into gig work, you're not really picking a bad option. I know I listed cons for each of these, and some of them sound like they had a pretty big downside, and they definitely can, but as long as you approach each one in a smart manner, and you budget your time and your money wisely, and you go in with an open mind, you're going to be fine. All of these are perfectly valid and profitable ways to make extra money on the side that you can use to invest more, pay down debt, or help you pay the bills every month. I just hope this list has made it a little more clear for you which one is right for you. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you have a side hustle? Do you have a second job? Which one works better for you? Have you done both? Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps me out, and I really, really appreciate it. It is totally free, so you don't have to pick up a second job to pay for it. And again, it really helps me out. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure to like the video. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.